Thank you, Edith, and I would like to thank also the organizers of this event. It is a great pleasure to intervene at this first EU Forum on the Legal Professions, and I'm very happy to share this experience with our distinguished colleagues on such an interesting topic, which is the image of the legal profession as an important factor that we have to consider if we want to maintain its attractiveness. But before I begin, I would like to clarify my point of view to give you the substrate of the thoughts that I will give you today. So I am an Italian lawyer. I belong to the Generation Y, and even if I am part of a European network of lawyers that allows me to have a view of the condition of lawyers in several countries, of course the scenario that I know better is the Italian one, and especially the segment of the private practice. To give you some numbers of my country, we have 240,000 lawyers, which is a huge number. In my city, Rome, we are 25,000. So it's a huge number, even if it is decreasing a lot in the last 10 years. There is a report prepared last year, and we have a minus 3,000 lawyers in just 1 year, especially women. So I would start by saying that the legal profession is a complex concept. And like all complex concepts, it does not escape simplification, trivialization, objectification. That is to say, the natural mechanism whereby society choose symbols and icons that embody the meaning of the concept. An image has the advantage of being immediately comprehensible, but in the long run, the image will be autonomous in communicating the concept. And the more the image is consolidated, the more difficult it will be for it to evolve and adapt. And this is something we are experiencing with the legal professions. We have some labels that are very hard to change. But we all know that the image of the legal profession can be detrimental to the perception and public trust. So let's admit that the legal profession of lawyers have never been loved. And even if in literature and in paintings there were caricatural descriptions of lawyers, in the years past it was at least respected and sometimes admired due to the historic role of lawyers in serving society, also as statesmen. But in the last 40 years at least, there is a drop in the public's perception of the character, prestige, and ethics of lawyers, in parallel with the general public distrust and popular skepticism about the judicial system. This is something we should all care a lot about. And when I say we, I mean everyone, because I firmly believe that every society where any large group of people is collectively demonized is suffering. And so provocatively, I've decided to put together the image of a lawyer of the 19th century with an image that I took from Instagram, where under the statement, "Choose your legal representation," you can see Lionel Hutz, which is a stereotypical fictitious character of the sitcom The Simpsons, a shady lawyer with questionable competences and ethics. Then you can see Rudolph Giuliani, former New York mayor, but especially Donald Trump's personal lawyer. And he was the target of a social media ridicule due to drips of blackish substance seen streaming down from his face during the press conference. And then you can see the Zoom cat lawyer. It is a very famous internet meme that was taken from a viral video from a live stream of a civil hearing in the United States, where there was an attorney who was not able to disable a cat filter. So basically, you can see a cat talking and saying, "I'm not a cat, I'm a lawyer." So this is just to give you an example of the image that lawyers have on social media. Of course, investigating the causes of the drop in the public's perception is really hard. And there are several causal factors that contributed to create a negative image, especially during the last 40 years. This is to say that it's not about the law, but it's more about sociology. And if I should raise this question to the audience, I'm sure that I will probably get different answers depending on the point of view. So I've tried to list some of the factors, even if some of them have changed nowadays. So we have the rising income, so high legal fees and low partnership incomes that receive publicity, making people think that a noble profession has been converted into a profit-making business like any other. Then we have the increase in the number of lawyers, especially after the 90s, the increase of litigation and the phenomenon of highly publicized trials, so a new and more intrusive and aggressive legal journalism took hold, feeding an enlarged public appetite for material about the legal arena, and also irresponsible news analysis of those trials that oversimplify them and treat them as entertainment. Then we have lawyers' advertising, which increased especially after the 90s. And then there are several factors related to changes in society. So, for example, more people came into contact with lawyers in a very unhappy and negative situation due to the increase in divorce rate, crimes rate, and civil dispute on so many different issues, the increase in government regulation, the change in mass communication. So people nowadays are communicating very quickly, and they expect instant responses. So people are quite disappointed when they discover that legal affairs are rarely characterized by certainty and speed. And then, of course, globalization. So we became a world of consumers that think that they can buy anything they want with no difference between goods and services. They want to buy a car as they want to buy legal service. And there is also a general decline in knowledge about civic organization and responsibilities of citizens. So, of course, if citizens have not formally learned about the functioning of the legal system and how legal institutions work, it is human nature to fill in the gap with the information of the popular legal culture. So what better place than fiction and social media can we look at to analyze the image of the legal profession, in particular that of lawyers nowadays. So you will probably recognize some of the faces in these slides. These are lawyers starring in films and TV series, Elle Woods of Legally Blonde, The Good Wife, Lawsuits, and How to Make Away with the Mother. And the images derived from pop culture are incredibly strong, powerful, and durable. And this leads me to a question. So, popular legal culture follows already existing public opinion, or it can also lead public opinion. I think they are both true. Because on one side, pop cultures reflect attitudes and myths that are already deeply rooted in the common psyche. But on the other side, we're constantly forming our opinions based on the material that we absorb from the pop culture that surrounds us. So assume a consumer of pop culture doesn't know any lawyer very well, doesn't read newspapers a lot, doesn't have much personal experience of the legal system. That person may well consume a substantial number of fictitious stories about lawyers that could teach the viewer something that is not necessarily true. Because images and the emotional response persist in memory long after the details of the plot are forgotten. So that's why it's very interesting to look at the presentation of lawyer in popular media, in lawyers' jokes, and in the political discourse about lawyers. In this regard, if we look at films and TV series, we can observe different phenomena. So, since the 80s, films portrayed the stereotype of vicious attorneys, but also stories where lawyers are heroes. And then we have TV series, which recently made those stereotypes look more attractive by describing a shining and rich life of lawyers. But these two phenomena have negative effects. First of all, they distort and exaggerate the image of lawyers and distance it from the civil society in a way that even contact with a real lawyer is unlikely to cancel them out. And second, they create false expectations for clients, but also for who is approaching to the legal profession. And so it creates frustration and lower self-esteem for who is already working in the legal profession, contributing to the widespreading of the feelings of career dissatisfaction and stress among practicing lawyers. So, of course, each stereotype contains a grain of truth, but I firmly believe that most of the lawyers are socially responsible people that work hard for their clients, that take a lot of undeserved abuse and work in a very competitive environment. And most of the things lawyers do are very good for society. However, this combination between public distrust and professional dissatisfaction creates a self-perpetuating cycle of cynicism that we have to invert, of course. So from where we should start to improve the reputation of lawyers? So I think we should go back to the basics of the legal profession. We should not forget that we're talking about a liberal profession exercised by intellectual professionals. So the concept of liberal profession recalls the concept of independence, while the notion of intellectual professionals recalls the concept of a profession that is based on an obligation of mean rather than an obligation of result, and recalls the idea of lawyers as very cultured men. But we need to be aware that these two basic concepts are progressively losing or changing their meaning due to new phenomena affecting the legal profession. So with regard to the concept of independence, I see, for example, the single client relationship where lawyers work for one client, which is his or her boss. The existence of law firms that look like big companies, creating a legal elite supremacy. And we are assisting to a process of denobilitization of the profession. So the public serving dimension of the lawyer's role have been pushed to a side because it allegedly conflicts with economic liberalism. We rarely, and also with regard to the concept of intellectual profession, I observe that the excessive specialization that we have due to the globalization has made us too sectorized, with little or no knowledge of what is outside our area of practice. And so we rarely see lawyers with knowledge of history, philosophy, sociology, like it was in the years past. And we should consider that artificial intelligence is no longer science fiction, and technology is starting to raise the doubt the legal profession is destined to disappear. So the economist Kenneth Arrow has written of trust as a public good that increases the efficiency of any system, but that cannot easily be bought. So what we can do? I think we should work on ethos and ethics, where ethos is why we do what we do, and ethos is how we do it. So first of all, I think we should believe more in the crucial role that we have in society and embrace it. You can find in the slide the reference to the basic principle of role of lawyers of the United Nations and the European Parliament resolution of 2006. Here you can see a quote by Piero Calamandrei, which is one of the fathers of the Italian law. And I actually have a passionate approach to profession as a criminal lawyer, so I really like this quote. And so I would like to recall that moral solidity is needed to give to the exercise of legal profession the nobility of an apostolate. This is something we should really work on. And also, we need to communicate better with the civil society, so clients, media, and general public. I agree with Anuja, that language is very important. The majority of people only have fragmentary knowledge of what law is all about, of what lawyers are like, and how the legal system actually works. And these people are prepared to accept radically negative statements about law and lawyers if it is served up with a good story. So I think we should work on our language because words are bridges. We conduct our profession sometimes with an impenetrable idiom, like the physician with cryptic diagnosis and prescriptions written in chicken tracts. When I see lawyers as guests in TV talks or interviewed, I notice that often they speak in a way that only experts will understand. And so like people encountered by Gulliver in his travels, lawyers have their own jargon. But we gradually lost sight of the fact that almost no one is equipped to translate our jargon. And we, who ought to be among the world's best communicators, sometimes we are able to talk only one to another. Moreover, I think we should act more as a group, to be proud to be part of the same category, which has a common identity and common culture, and not simply a collection of individuals that share a common training. And this forum is an example of this, as a dialogue among the representatives of legal professions. It's very important to share experience, fight for the same value, and share a common commitment to something greater than our own self-interest. And let this group of people be accessible to the new generation. I agree with proposal number 4 of Professor Killian about the need to understand better the new generation and include them. Also, of course, high qualification and meritocracy law school have to meet the challenge of preparing law students for their professional lives, and they have to instill professional identity. So not just doctrine, but also practical experience. Also, the continuous training is very important, but because what made us so important in the past was professionalism, so the ability to understand law and perform activities that lay people couldn't do. So if we want to keep the ability to be indispensable in a world that is changing so fast, we need to improve our skills, always be up to date, predict the changes, master the changes. So, and finally, ethics for lawyers. I think that if the profession succeed in holding members to higher than ordinary standards of competence and integrity, these differences will redound to their credit. So to conclude, even if the image of lawyers has changed from ugly, bald men with hooked noses to incredibly handsome men and women as they are described by TV series, bad jokes about lawyers will probably never go away. But I have faith in the new generation of lawyers. The millennials, they haven't experienced the economic boom. We started working after the economic crisis. So this means that we have immediately faced a very tough and competitive environment. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So I'm lucky enough to be part of a network of young lawyers at the national and international level, and I see so many brilliant colleagues who are hungry, who want to make a change, who want to contribute, who are less self-centered and more selfless, who deals better with technology and social media because they grew up with them. So this is the image I like to see and the image I like to tell you, because usually times of crisis produce the best brains. Thank you.